What really happened? This wasn't just a flood, it was a reset, a geospiritual purge. Not from nature, from them. The elite bloodlines didn't just erase history, they buried it. Literally. The mud wasn't water and dirt, it was liquidated memory, a slurry of alchemical reaction, sound frequency, and geo-engineered destruction. This was weaponized Earth. They triggered it using ancient tech, resonance devices, tower harmonics, something like harp but older. It didn't just cover buildings, it silenced truth. Tartaria wasn't a lost empire, it was the empire. Worldwide, unified, based on free energy, ether tech, vibration, sound, water, and sacred geometry. The architecture still whispers it. Star forts, orphan trains, cathedrals tuned like instruments. They were building with resonance, not brick, and that scared the parasite class. So what did they do? They turned the ether grid against itself, hijacked the somatic fields, triggered a resonance collapse. Stone became liquid, mountains bled, the ground rose and swallowed whole cities. That's what the mud was. Not sediment, not floodwater, resonance fallout from a frequency war. The so-called mud flood appears worldwide. Buried windows, half-submerged doors, cities built on top of cities, perfectly preserved ruins beneath fresh layers of soil. This wasn't erosion, it was instant burial. The only force that could do that globally, with precision. Sound. Tartarian cities weren't primitive. They were powered by resonant architecture, buildings designed to generate and receive frequency. Domes, antennas, star forts, giant tuning forks disguised as monuments. These structures didn't just look beautiful, they harnessed free energy, pulled from the ether, distributed wirelessly through geometry and sound. The enemy didn't just want to destroy the people, they needed to shut down the grid. And to do that, they had to collapse the frequency field. There's a phenomenon called soil liquefaction. Vibrate the ground at just the right frequency, and the solid turns to sludge. Not water, not mud, but a state change triggered by vibration. The earth becomes a trap. Foundations fail, stone sinks. And if it's done on a massive scale, you get the mud flood. It didn't fall from the sky, it rose from beneath, triggered by resonance weapons. This was geoacoustic warfare, and it worked. These weren't myths, they were acoustic weapons. Tartaria likely had its own frequency defenses. So to break it, the controllers needed tech even stronger, tuned to the exact harmonic signature of Tartarian architecture. This wasn't random destruction, it was targeted dissonance, resonance sabotage. Every reset needs a story, a cover, a myth, and so they blamed it on floods, natural disasters, time, chaos. They rewrote the maps, changed the calendars, buried the history, literally. But the truth is buried in plain sight. The doors below grounded the streets beneath streets. The melted stone that looks like mud. They call them mud fossils, but they're not bones. They're entire beings petrified in sediment. Organs, skin, muscle tissue, some with cellular structures still visible under microscope. Discovered in mountains, cliffsides, deserts, often dismissed by mainstream science. But look again. Massive limbs, toes, ribs, eyelids sealed shut in stone. Caves shaped like skulls. Hills with bone marrow core, mountains with vertebrae. These aren't natural formations, these are corpses, buried, hardened, encoded in rock. And they all point to one thing. Something enormous died suddenly and was flash entombed in mud. How does living tissue turn to stone? Answer, rapid mineral replacement. Usually takes eons, but under the right conditions. High frequency, sudden pressure, saturated iron-rich sediment. You get instant petrification. It's the same tech used to make artificial stone today. Except this happened on a global scale during the mud flood. Fossils aren't dead, they're dormant, and the system doesn't want you near them. Mythology speaks of titans, beings of immense scale who walked before the age of man. Because if we remember what we're standing on, we remember what they killed to make room for us. Flood wasn't just about Tartaria, it was about wiping the past completely. It was a mass extinction, not just of people, but of giants, gods, original beings, and organic tech. Everything too big, too ancient, too free, collapsed under the weight of a sound that shook the Earth's bones. Then they buried it, rewrote the map, taught us we evolved from monkeys and that the bones in the ground are prehistoric lizards. No, they were witnesses and they were silenced in stone. And when the resonance wave hit, the energy hit them too. It calcified their cells, turned blood to mineral, flesh to rock, that now we walk on their backs, build cities on their chests. Mind stone from their skulls. The Earth's terrain is not just rock and dirt, it's biological ruin. Some hills bleed iron when cracked, like oxidized blood. Some stones release smells, decay, rot, ammonia, when split. That's not geology, that's decomposition. But we're taught to call it natural, to pave over it, to never ask what mountain that used to be. But some of them, they're still here. You can feel them when you touch the rock, and they remember. After the mud flood, the world was empty, cities with no people, buildings with no owners, infrastructure intact, but lifeless. Then came the orphans, thousands of them, shipped across continents on trains, alone, silent, reassigned. But who were they? Where did they come from? No parents, no records, no past, just children seeded into the ruins. And here's the horror. These weren't just orphans, they were replacements. The new population, the post-reset blank slates, told nothing, taught obedience, given names, jobs, uniforms, programmed to forget. Once the cities were emptied, the real work began. Erasure, history rewritten, timelines collapsed, Tartarian books burned or lost, and star forts repurposed as prisons, mud-covered tech labelled as decorative. And the children, they were taught new names, new flags, new gods, new rulers. So everything they saw was the remains of a world they were never allowed to remember. And with no elders to tell them otherwise, they believed it. That was the point. They even made a joke of it. Cabbage Patch Kids, babies grown in the dirt, plucked from the earth with no history, no family, no memory. It was a mockery of what really happened, because many of the children were taken from artificial systems, some born in labs, some engineered, some left behind from before the reset, souls recycled into new bodies. Cabbage Patch, try incubator programs, try soul reassignment centres, try trafficking disguised as adoption. The reset wasn't just mud, it was the seeding of a new species of human designed to forget. They don't want you to remember what sound can do, what architecture can unlock, what you're standing on, because Tartaria wasn't fantasy, it was proof that energy can be free, that memory can be encoded in stone, that truth can echo forever through the mud, and that one day someone would remember. You just did. The cathedrals were never churches. They call them cathedrals, but look closer. They don't match the doctrine, they don't reflect the era, and they don't fit the tools they claimed were used to build them. Giant pipe organs, tuning chambers, vaulted ceilings. These weren't places of worship. They were resonant power stations, designed to amplify vibration, to direct frequency through the stone, to heal, to energize, to awaken. And after the mud flood, they were repurposed, converted, crosses added, bells swapped, organs silenced. They didn't want you hearing what those buildings used to do. The pipe organ isn't an instrument, it's a vibrational engine. Each cathedral once had one. Massive, intricately tuned, often powered by water or air compression. These frequencies weren't just musical, they were healing, calibrated to the human body, the Earth's grid, and the ether above. When played in harmony with the building's sacred geometry, they could charge water, realign DNA, and even open states of consciousness now considered divine. That's why they silence them. That's why many are broken, sealed, or removed, because sound that frees is a threat to control. It was a planetary nervous system built by the ancients, upgraded by Tartarians, now fractured, but not dead. You feel it when you visit certain places, that buzz under your skin, that pull, that clarity. That's the grid, still alive, still waiting. And the more you remember, the more you reactivate it. This isn't history, it's suppressed technology. And the moment we restore the frequency, the reset ends. Everything in Tartaria followed geometry, not just for beauty, for function. Buildings aligned to celestial positions, angles crafted to match harmonic resonance, floors tiled with phi ratio spirals, domes that echoed the Schumann frequency. This wasn't art, it was energetic infrastructure. The geometry held the field, stabilized vibration, amplified consciousness, healed the nervous system. You weren't just living in a city, you were inside a machine. And when that machine was turned off, the world dimmed. We called it progress, but it was a downgrade. There's still a network humming beneath your feet, ley lines, sacred sites, forgotten hubs. It once connected cathedrals, star forts, towers, aquifers, and monoliths across the entire Earth. Geometries that mirror somatic patterns, polar replacement aligned with ley lines. These weren't defensive, they were frequency catchers, grounding stations, energy collectors. Some even believe they tethered into the etheric power grid and redistributed energy across regions using water and harmonic pressure. After the flood, most were buried, destroyed, or converted to prisons and forts. Because if you control the node, you control the flow. They silenced the cathedrals, they shattered the grid. But they didn't stop using sound, they just inverted it. Now the frequencies aren't healing, they're draining, designed to destabilize. Sirens, alarms, fluorescent hums, high-pitched appliances, constant low bass in cities, 440 Hz tuning standard, discord disguised as music. You're not just hearing noise, you're being programmed by it. The war on frequency never ended, it just changed pitch. Modern cities don't just look soulless, they're engineered to be spiritually sterile. Box shapes, low ceilings, right angles that deflect energy, fluorescent lighting that drains your aura. None of it flows, none of it sings. Your phone emits a frequency, so does your router, your smart meter, your fridge, your watch. Each one tuned to disconnect you from the grid beneath your feet. This isn't just radiation, it's vibrational hijack. 5G doesn't just spread data, it spreads synthetic rhythm. It overlays the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural heartbeat, with artificial pulse. So your cells stop syncing with Gaia and start syncing with the system. It's not just about control, it's about replacement. They're replacing the grid they buried with one you can't feel. But here's what they didn't count on. Memory stored in stone, frequency stored in flesh. Because the more we walk the ruins, the more we touch these cathedrals, star forts, sacred sites, the more the signal begins to come back. We hum, we remember, we resonate. People are restoring ancient harmonics, tuning forks, organs, singing bowls, and playing the frequencies that unlock DNA, collapse trauma, realign light bodies. The grid responds. It never left. It was just waiting to be remembered. You're not separate from the grid. You are part of it. Your body, water and crystal, your voice, resonant tech, your bones, mineral receivers. You were born into a silenced world, but your frequency didn't forget. You're here to retune the earth, to walk among the ruins and wake the stones. To crack the spell with your vibration. Tartaria was never lost, it's echoing through you. And when we remember how to sing again, the mud recedes, the towers rise, and the grid hums once more. The old world didn't erode, it calcified. And now we live among the remains with no funeral, no markers, no mourning, because they don't want you to ask what happened to them and who did it. You can see it if you look. Pressure, electromagnetic force, the same tech that brought down the buildings, brought down the bodies. A planetary burial, no tombstones, no funeral, just silence. And now, the system builds on their bones, carves their faces into tourist sites, mines them, ignores them, mocks them. But the land remembers. You were told myth is metaphor, that giants were fantasy, that stone is just dead earth. But now you know. The ground beneath you was once alive. It held memory, movement, emotion, and maybe it still does. Nothing you were taught about history is true. It's not just about a lost empire, it's about a manipulated timeline, because Tartaria shows advanced tech, high knowledge, global infrastructure, in the 1700s, 1600s, even earlier. But where are the records, the wars, the books? They've been scrubbed. The official history, it's stitched together from lies, inserts, and forgeries. There wasn't just one reset, there were many. Tartaria was just the last one that left evidence behind. We were made to normalize the cover-up, taught to revere ruins as if they were freshly built, forced to forget, made to believe we were primitive. But that's the final inversion. They convinced us we were the beginning when we were actually the after. But there's something they didn't account for. The resonance doesn't die. Tartarian buildings still hum, buried star forts still pulse beneath cities. Cathedrals still hold codes in their geometry, and you still carry the memory. Because energy doesn't disappear, it waits for someone to tune in, for someone to walk the ruins and say, I remember this. And when enough of us do, the grid reactivates. And the controllers use time as the weapon. We weren't just the survivors, we were the cleanup crew. The mud didn't kill Tartaria, it preserved it. The ruins aren't broken, they're asleep. And the next time you touch the stone or feel that pulse under your feet or see a door buried halfway into the earth, don't ask what it used to be, ask what it's waiting for. Because Tartaria isn't gone, it's just waiting for its frequency to return. And you are the echo that brings it back.